Wherever you are in the world, good day, good people, good day, and welcome to Wow, Wish Only Well live television show where I am your host, SherVonne Grose, marriage and family therapist, inspirational coach, and motivational speaker. Listen, it's Wednesday, guys, and you know what we do on Wednesdays? We come to Wow, and by Wow, I mean to wish only well all across the world. Listen, I have a very special guest that's in the studio with me today. Yes, a very, very special guest that's in the studio with me. And I cannot wait to get conversation started with her. Listen, we really need to have this type of conversation today, as in every day, guys. There's so much going on in the world, just so much going on in the world. And so my special guest is none other than my mentor, Stefanie Hughes, licensed marriage and family therapist, guys. But before Stefanie comes up, guys, we have to do justice by me properly introducing her. So let me give you a little bit of information for those of you who may not know this phenomenal guest that's in the studio with me. Okay. All right. So Stefanie Hughes is a licensed marriage and family therapist with over 20 years experience in the mental health profession. Her specialties include sex therapy and hypnotherapy. She is a well-sought speaker in the community and has a special interest in empowering women and couples. Stefanie hosts an annual workshop entitled The Forgiveness Process. She is also the founder of the Local Mental Magic movement, which seeks to educate people of faith and people of color on the value of mental health. So important. The movement serves hosts to an annual self-care conference, and you're going to hear all about that in today's show. Mrs. Hughes is active in her local community through her church in the areas of singing, community outreach, intercessory prayer, and administration. Stefanie is active in the marketplace, owning her private practices and JBH catering and event planning with her husband Dennis of 26 years. Yay! Family oriented and faith driven, she seeks to offer grace and a safe place for people to find healing, rest, and then push to their purpose. I am part of the push. So listen, guys, I am so excited to have her. So listen, we're going to bring her up so that we can get the conversation started. So without further ado, let me bring up Stefanie Hughes, licensed marriage and family therapist. Hello,
Hello, hello.
how are you today?
I'm doing good. How are you today?
Oh, I am doing well. I am doing well. Listen, I am so excited to have you on. I know that we have so much to talk about. Oh my God. And listen, I was debating, about whether or not I was going to actually like do the 21 minutes of silence because of the lives that was lost on yesterday. And it's just been a lot, that has happened. We can't forget about the shooting that occurred also in New York. So there are a lot of families that are hurting, not just those families who lost lives, even though our hearts and our prayers go out to them. Not just this, but the trauma that people have experienced as a result of these, kinds of things that's happening. We're having talks here. Wow, trying to deflect, I guess, and not to focus on that. I want to keep my eyes dry
Yeah, yeah,
as much as possible,
yeah.
and I don't want to. I also want you to share because I think it's very important.
Mhm.
The mission that you have with Local Mental Magic, and what God has given you
Yeah.
to bring that forth, and it's needed for such a time as this. And so I'm so excited about it. So let's just jump right into conversation in reference to Local Mental Magic, and because we need to know all about the magic of good mental health right now in this season.
Yeah. So, so you kind of summed it up. Mocha Mental Magic is a movement. It is I have a desire to help to educate, empower, and inspire people of color and people of faith, because in both of those communities, when we mention the word mental health, it's not really sought as a resource or viewed as a resource. And so I seek to, through M3, to help people see that it can be a resource and give them some different avenues and ways to look at mental wellness and how to use that resource to their advantage.
Mhm.
And so the conference, of course, is our anchor event. It happens annually now. And so it is exclusively for women, and it focuses specifically on self care. And I know we're not going to talk about literally the tragedies, but of course, we acknowledge that and send our condolences and prayers to all of the families that have been affected.
Yes.
So, two things I want to mention about that, just the feelings that people are feeling. I'm having people come into my office and say, why do I feel this like it's happened to me? Like I feel like I was in Texas or I was in New York. And that's called secondary trauma or
Yeah.
vicarious trauma.
Mhm.
And so I think that we need to educate people and help them to understand that the feelings that they're feeling are natural and normal, and they're associated with what we call secondary trauma. And secondary trauma is when you witness or become privy to information about a traumatic experience. And sometimes it can trigger your own traumatic experiences from your own journey, but it also can trigger you in a way that you feel like you have actually literally been victimized by the situation. And
Exactly.
so secondary trauma can be treated just like anything else, by going to therapy, by using therapy as a resource. So
Mhm.
that's number one. And then secondly, did you know that self-care increases one's level of resiliency? And resiliency is a proponent to how well people navigate traumatic experiences.
Mm. Mm.
So when you operate in an effective level of self-care for yourself, not only is it taking care of you in the moment, it also is kind of like a chipmunk. You get to store up, you know, your emotional strength
Mhm.
and wherewithal,
Mhm.
so that when tragedy happens, whether directly or indirectly, your
Mhm.
level of resilience is able to help you to maneuver through it in a more effective way, and you
Yeah.
don't get stuck.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's why we are really, really promoting self-care
Mhm.
and trying to teach people. Again, the conference is specifically for women, to teach them not only the value of self-care, but again, all these different facets in which you can operate in self-care. So that's the goal.
Ah, that's a wonderful goal to have, because I think that we underestimate the benefits of self care and how
Mhm,
self care is preventative, basically,
mhm,
for us going into having chronic mental health issues or significant mental and emotional health issues. And even though we say that's preventative, it can also be a way to actually manage even what we do have if we've been diagnosed already with a mental health condition. So I think that it's important that we have these types of conversations and we do these types of psychoeducational services for individuals so that they can learn the importance of self-care.
mhm.
And so I know that we talk a lot about self-care as it relates to women. We're not trying to leave out the men,
Yeah.
but tell us more why you feel the desire or the need to make sure that you emphasize and maybe even overemphasize the need for self-care with women.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that and kind of anchored me back, because it's not that we're discounting men, and there
Right,
are opportunities within Mocha Mental Magic where men are invited also.
right.
And I'm steadily asking God for creative and witty ideas for other ways to engage the male
Mhm,
population.
mhm.
The male population is a little bit harder or
For sure.
challenging to come forth, you
Yeah,
know.
for sure.
It's hard to even get them to go to a medical doctor,
Hmm.
more so than a mental health professional. But we started with women because women are multitaskers.
Say
Usually,
that. Yes, for
yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Usually they're responsible for their family. In today's day and time, we don't have a lot of June Cleaver situations. People have to have two income households. So women are working, still managing a full time job at home with managing kids, household, being a wife, etc., etc.
Mhm.
And then usually they're also involved in some type of social experience or spiritual experience. Some people are involved in ministry, social clubs, sororities, community organizations. And so you literally look like an octopus sometimes trying to juggle it all. So we purposely um, reached out to that particular demographic to say, sis, you don't have to live like an octopus and try to have it all together all the time.
Right.
There is another way to do this. And
Mhm.
so that's why the conference speaks to a bunch of different facets that you may not normally consider for self care, but in fact, they are areas of self care, like finances, like our marital relationship, like
Mhm.
parenting, like
Mhm.
being a high or in demand profession, being in a high performance profession. A lot of times we have to be on all the time, especially as entrepreneurs. You know,
Yes.
something we were talking
Yes.
about off camera, like
Yes.
we're trying to juggle all of that because
Yes.
entrepreneurship,
Mhm.
although it brings home a paycheck, it's not in the traditional form.
Right.
So,
Definitely not.
like if we don't eat or go into the office or see people, then I mean, if we don't do those things, we don't eat.
Right.
So
It's
that's a lot of pressure.
it's a lot. It
Uh,
really is.
so
I,
yeah, go ahead.
yeah. No, no, listening to you. This is
Um,
good.
I was saying also that the other facets are our physical selves and, of course, our spiritual selves. A lot of
Yes.
times we don't think that our spiritual selves is a component of self care, but in fact, it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you
It is.
take care of all these different facets that I've mentioned, you can operate in optimal self-care. Like it's and we say this all the time, it's so much bigger than a mani-pedi. It's so much bigger
Yes.
than a massage. It's got to be
Mm-hmm.
a lifestyle. It's got
Yes.
to be intentionalism and deliberateness every day.
Mm-hmm.
Every day.
For sure. And you know, to think about women, a lot of times I get from, and I know you get this too, you know, in your sessions, women, a lot of time when we mention that, you know, if they could just engage in, because what I'm finding is that problems usually go back to one or two things. If in couples is usually communication, right?
Mhm.
There's always an issue with the communication, because if you think about it, that's usually the root, right? Even though we may present and say, well, it's, I'm not, you know, it's something else, we're not being intimate with each other, we're not, money is an issue, it still goes back to communications, right? If you really think about that. So the same thing with a lot of women, a lot of times what we struggle with is finding that balance. And a lot of times when we're trying to find that balance, we don't have self-care, we don't value self-care, we don't put ourselves first because we think that it's selfish, or we think that, oh, I can put myself on the back burner, just make sure that the family, the children are taken care of, and things of that nature. And so women have a really hard time actually incorporating like self-care like this. It should be intentional, and it should be something that's occurring every day. But
Mhm.
what I'm finding is that when I say that to clients about engaging in self-care, they're like, I don't have time for that. Like
Yeah.
what, you know, when you try to say, like, so just helping them, like teaching them what it means. Cause you know, we do think when we hear self-care, we think about, oh, that means me going to the spa, me, or maybe me getting a massage, me getting my nails done. And it's so much, like you said, it's so much bigger than that. And so I
Yeah.
think that it's good that, you know, you have developed this movement to kind of help, and the focus of one of the big component of it is the self-care, and the conference that you have annually. So how awesome is that?
Yeah, I created an acronym to help drive the point home, but also to help people to remember that there are different facets of self-care. And so
Right.
the acronym is SPICE, and I chose that name because in the cultures of color, we like spice. We like
Yes.
spice, and so how fitting to help people to remember. If they can remember spice, they can remember all the facets of self care. And so SPICE stands for S is for spiritual, P is for physical, I
Mhm.
is for intellectual, C is for connection, and E is for emotional. And
Ah.
so studies show that we should operate in 20% of each one of those areas every day. Every day. And so when you break
Mhm.
self-care down into these little nuggets, it's feasible for you to get it done every day. You know, your spiritual is your devotional time or your meditation time.
Mhm.
For myself, I start my day that way. Some people end their day that way.
Mhm.
But that happens. Physical can be you working out, you know, and even if you have a stationary job like you and I do,
Mhm.
between sessions, you know, if you're at the office, you can walk around the office. If you're working from home, you can go out and take a brisk walk between sessions. Intellectual is anything that you're going to do that's going to challenge your intellect. So you're
Mhm.
going to do something that you don't normally do. So maybe sign up for a belly dancing class, sign up for a chess class, read a book, a novel, you know, that you haven't read before. Listen to a genre of music that you've not experienced before.
Yeah.
So that's intellectual. And then C is connection. God created us to be connected to other people,
Say that again,
you
right?
know. And so a lot of times people are like, you know, I don't want to connect because I don't want it to be messy and da 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 da. But you have to take your time and form friendships that
Mhm.
have some value system that matches up for you. Not that
Right.
every value has to match up with you, but like you and I, we've been knowing each other for years.
Yes.
We have a value system, a similar value system around
Mhm.
family,
Mhm.
around hard work,
You do.
and around ministry.
Yes.
And that allows us to connect with one another and
Mhm.
allows us to be able to have conversations beyond our business connection. So
Right.
there's value in that connection. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's the C. And then the E, of course, is emotional.
Mhm.
And that's being able to give yourself permission to say that you're having emotion and knowing how to regulate that emotion in an
Mhm.
appropriate way. Like you said, I don't want to be teary-eyed for my broadcast.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
you know, I don't want that to be the focal point of our discussion. It's
Mhm.
being able to acknowledge, hey, this whole situation made me feel a gamut of emotions. I felt
Right.
disappointment, I felt fear, I felt anger, I felt
Yes.
sadness, I felt
Right.
grief, you know, and so we can acknowledge that in the
Mhm.
appropriate settings
Right.
and deal with that. So it's being able to own all pieces of yourself, you know, spices, all facets of yourself, and being able to incorporate that into your everyday walk.
Oh, I love it. I actually, put the acronym down there,
Oh,
SPICE. I didn't
okay.
put all that, and I said, spice up your life
Oh,
because
I
that's
love it.
it.
I love
Like,
it.
yeah, just spice up your life. If you can put a little spice in it, right? My mom used to tell me when I was too slow, put a little pep in your step. So you
Uh-huh.
can put a little spice in your life, right? Things will work out better, smoother for you if you do
Yes.
that. You will find your relationships better and stronger. It's just amazing how good mental health plays into all the different domains and facets of our life. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I think it's awesome. Yeah, that you brought that up. So, listen, so we are talking like about self care and about this movement that you have, and you mentioned the spiritual piece, which
Yeah.
is the S in Spice,
Mhm.
right? And
Yeah.
so the Local Mental Magic is a movement that was designed to target women of faith.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that can be like a whole conversation. So
Yeah.
take that and do with what you want to do with it in terms of
Okay.
helping us to understand how it is that you decided to create this movement and make sure that it incorporated women of faith.
Okay. So I'm a church girl at heart. I was born and raised in church. So I have seen ministry my entire life. My parents were both very active in church. And so there was a commitment level and a loyalty level to church. And what I found as I grew up and as I began to know God truly for myself and not just based on the beliefs of my parents, I realized for me, Okay. There was a lot of emphasis on denomination. And
Yes.
as I grew and became a young adult, that was a conflict for me spiritually, because I didn't want to be so focused on denomination and religion. I wanted a relationship with God. And
Mhm.
so, in the course of going through different church experiences and seeing ministry literally from top to bottom, seeing the good, the bad, the ugly, the indifferent, one thing that I discovered with our culture is that people of faith don't readily seek out therapy as a resource.
Right.
Oftentimes we
Right.
are taught in that world, to take it to the altar or to commit it to prayer, and
Yes.
we should be fine. But
Mhm.
in reality, that's not always true. I'd never discount that advice. I think that that is valuable, but I think
Mhm.
that God has also created another avenue, through gifting us to be able to provide wise counsel to
Exactly.
help people.
Mhm.
Because when you experience trauma, you can go to the altar, they can lay oil on you, lay hands on you, they can pray for you, and you can be delivered of that. But there's a residual piece that comes with traumatic experiences, i.e., flashbacks, i.e., triggers to the events that happen,
Mhm. Mhm.
i.e., if it was a victimization situation, having to continue to be around one's perpetrator or whoever victimized them. And so these things are best dealt with by a mental health professional.
Yes.
So when God gave me the vision for M3, he specifically spoke to me about these two populations, because although they are not always the same, there are some similarities in the stigma that comes with mental health services for both of those cultures. People of faith don't readily go to therapy. No one wants to be viewed as crazy. No one wants to
Yes.
be viewed as they failed. And
Yes.
so they don't readily seek out the resource.
Mhm.
So M3, through God, helped me to see, how do I reach these people, these
Mhm.
generations and generations of people.
Mhm.
So many
Mhm.
generational patterns have
Yes.
been created that
Yes.
are detrimental,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Mhm.
And so we keep repeating the same behavior, and it's not getting us anywhere. People feel hopeless, people feel defeated, suicide is at an all-time high, and I am not okay with that.
Mhm.
So
No.
M3 is an opportunity, a platform to go to churches, to go to people of faith, to go to believers with the testimony. Number one, I'm a believer and I go to therapy.
Amen. Amen.
So
Right.
just because I'm a therapist doesn't make me holier than thou. I have my
Right.
own therapist. I have to
Right.
process things just like any other human being.
That's
And
right.
so I'm not ashamed to say it. I stand on a soapbox and testify to it, because I want people to know, number one, you're not alone.
Exactly.
Number
Yes.
two, you too can have healing. I've gone to the altar, I get prayed for, but I also go to therapy, and my therapist is a believer. So she understands me from that perspective. She
Right.
never discounts that. Um,
Mhm.
that is incorporated into the work that we do. And so M3 also has a free ebook on the website, and it teaches
Yes.
you all the letters that come behind the different mental health professionals' names, so that you can learn what kind of therapist it is that you possibly need, and go to therapy. A lot of times, people of faith and people of color, they get the nerve up, they make the call, right? But it's kind of like they're just shooting in the dark, and they go, and the experience isn't favorable, and so they come out saying, "See, therapy isn't for me."
Right. Exactly.
You
Exactly.
haven't, if you've not done the proper research to find the specialty that works for you, to make sure that the letters behind their names speak to your particular situation, then you'll miss it. So we have a free ebook for you to download at no expense. You just download it, um, and you have an opportunity to join our mailing list so you can find out about our latest events. But more importantly, the ebook is there to teach you the beginnings of now what? I decided that I wanted to go to therapy. Now what? That's the name of the ebook. And then you learn about those letters behind their name. You learn how to differentiate between them. You learn information about how do you really determine who's a good fit. I give you questions to ask, and so you can make a more informed decision and find someone that's a fit, so you can have a long lasting relationship as you heal.
Oh, yes. So glad that you pointed that out because that's part of what I try to make sure I educate people about. In fact, just yesterday, a young lady and I, we were having a conversation, and she's been going to therapy for years, but had not recently been going because she said that she felt like she wasn't making any progress. And so we had that same conversation. And in fact, I did refer her to Mocha Mental Magic.
Oh, good.
Terms of, yeah, so that she can get the ebook and read up on and
Mhm.
familiarize herself so that she can
Yeah.
ask the right questions and make sure she's making the right connections, because that's important. You got to make sure that you and your therapist are a good fit for each other.
Mhm.
That's very important, in terms of you getting your healing. It's just a podiatrist, as a foot doctor, and so that I need to get. Go, but this is a very good conversation. It's a very informative conversation. But before we get to in the ebook, so I wanted you to share with the viewers today how it is that they can access that book. Where do they go to learn about Mocha Mental Magic, to sign up for the newsletter, and to even purchase tickets
Mhm.
for the conference? So and to even
Mhm.
purchase tickets for the conference. So
Yeah.
go shoot at it.
Yes.
Have at it, sis.
So,
You got
um,
it.
if you go to www.mochamentalmagic.com, you can get the ebook, you can learn about the conference, you can pre-order your t-shirt. We have a signature t-shirt for the conference, and we have an upcoming event this next Friday, June the 3rd. June the 3rd, we will have a viewing on the lawn of an oldie but a
Okay.
goodie, Waiting to Excel. That is an oldie but a goodie movie. And
Yay.
so it's a ladies
Yes, it
only
is.
evening, but we'll be having a movie series all month. And so catch us in a town near you. We're going to travel it this summer, and just do some good work around watching movies and helping people to learn, again, the value of mental wellness and knowing that you don't always have to get on a couch. So, like, movie night will offer you not only an opportunity to watch a movie, but you'll also get to identify the character that you most feel connected to. And we'll have a therapist assigned to each one of those characters to teach you some coping skills for that particular personality type, so you can learn and grow. So that's what movie nights will be like all summer long. So get on the mailing list so you can find out when the next one is and what city it's going to be in. And definitely go to mochamentalmagic.com so that you can learn more about the conference. We have in-person and virtual opportunities there. We would love for you to be a part of it. We're going to have a blast. The hotel information is also on the website. So come, let us teach you, let us love on you, and show you the value of self care and mental wellness.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And there you have it, guys. Straight from Mrs. Stefanie Hughes, licensed marriage and family therapist, hypnotherapist, and sex therapist, and founder of M3 Mocha Mental Magic. So we hope to see your face in the place at one of these events, if it's a brown sugar moment or either at the actual self-care conference. That will be June, the date, Stephanie, I'm sorry, 24th
June the
through the 26th.
24th. Yes, June 24th through 26th. So 30 days from now, 30 days from now, we will
Good
be
deal.
in
Get your
our
tickets.
self care conference. So get your tickets, get your tickets.
Get your ticket. All right, guys, that's all our time for Wild Wish Only Well. So we hope that we have said something that will encourage you encourage you to go to that website, even if it's nothing but to get the ebook and to learn all about therapy. But we really hope that you will join us for the self-care conference, June 24th, 26th, either in person or virtually, your choice. So that's all of our times for the night, guys. Take care and remember to spice up your life and be the best version of yourself.